Is joining forces with another dentist a recipe for success or disaster? I have been a part of many different dental partnerships, and today let's talk about whether that's something you should do or not. My name is Ryan Smith, DDS, and I have owned and managed over 15 different dental practices, a supply company, a dental lab, and many other dental-related businesses. Partnerships are something I have a lot of experience with. If you're watching this, then more than likely you're weighing your options on whether to enter a dental partnership or not. Let's first talk about why dental partnerships can be appealing and in which situations they work well. Dental partnerships can be a very attractive option, especially for dentists who may not have the confidence or experience to take on a big project or business by themselves. The most common situation is when an older, more experienced, and established dentist is looking to either grow the practice or wind down and needs a partner to help maintain the clinical growth. That doctor may be looking to scale back and do more specialty-related procedures and needs someone else to manage and operate the other aspects of the practice. Dental partnerships are often used to help mitigate risk. They are also used for larger dental practices where a bank may not be comfortable loaning money to just one dentist. They can be very attractive because it's much less isolating when you have another person who shares your vision and responsibilities. You have someone to talk to and also to use as a sounding board when you face issues and difficulty as a dentist. I feel that more often than not, many dentists look at partnerships because they want camaraderie and friendship. And while that can be a great benefit, it should absolutely not be the reason to enter into one. One important aspect of dental partnerships is that both people must bring something to the table. It could be that one dentist has a much more advanced skill set, which benefits both doctors and helps that doctor avoid being bogged down with as many exams, fillings, or smaller procedures. Or it could be that one dentist is more focused on the clinical side, while the other is very focused on marketing and business activities. Sometimes this works fairly well. One doctor might have a much stronger financial history, enabling both of you to secure a larger practice and better practice than you could on your own. Just make sure that you're both bringing something tangible and valuable, because if not, that imbalance will likely sour the partnership at some point in the future. When entering into a dental partnership, having the right mindset is very important. The reality is that every partnership will fail without exception. It might fail in a year or two, or it might end because someone dies. But regardless, all partnerships eventually end. You need to go into a partnership with that mindset. Dental partnerships can be very complicated and difficult to unwind if you never discuss or prepare for this eventuality. Before any partnership documents are signed, you need to lay out all the details that explain how the partnership will be unwound, valued, and sold if things do not go well. You need to clearly outline options on the sale, if bank financing is allowed or if not. Include a stipulation for seller financing to enable things to proceed. You also need to figure out all the complicating situations, like what if your partner gets divorced and his wife wants to force a sale of the practice to get her portion. These and many other complicated situations need to be addressed, discussed, and resolved before entering into any partnership. If your partner shows up one day and says, "My wife is making me move to a different state, I have to leave," it should be incredibly easy to facilitate that, and both sides should know exactly what to do. It needs to be fair for both sides. However, if someone leaves or bails on a partnership, there should be some repercussions or penalties for breaking the partnership sooner than agreed upon, especially if it isn't mutually agreed upon. Clearly mapping out how a partnership will look when it ends is critical. Not only that, you also need to sit down and map out what-if scenarios with your partner and imagine all the theoretically difficult situations you're likely to face. For example, what happens if you have a horrible collections month and the practice loses money? So you can't pay both providers what they earned. How are you going to deal with that? Let's say one of the partners hurts his knee, takes more vacations than the other, or decides to work fewer hours per day. All these potential issues need to be discussed and dealt with ahead of time so that they don't drive a wedge between you. If you discuss these things at the beginning, before any issues arise, it's much more likely that both sides will remain level-headed and come up with win-win solutions. It's important for each person to bring their own skill set and unique abilities to the table. I have found that the more different the day-to-day roles for each partner, the more difficult it is to keep things going long-term. Very few dentists are able to look at the big picture and overlook differences in workload and how they perceive that workload. For a partnership to work, you need to overlook lots of little things. The moment you let the perception that you're doing more or working harder or caring more than the other person seep into your mind, that's the beginning of the end. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a marriage or relationship. Long-lasting partnerships are built on the willingness to overlook the small stuff and always assume the best intentions of the other person. Without that, your partnership is likely doomed. Another thing that's important to discuss in a dental partnership is recognizing the different aspects of running a business. As a dentist and business owner, there are two key elements to a practice: the time and energy spent as an operator in the chair working on patients, and the time and energy spent as a manager handling administrative tasks, audits, and working on the business itself. I've personally been in partnerships where the clinical operating partner was highly valued for what was done in the chair, but little to no value was given for what was done as the manager. They would have no issue taking home a big paycheck while the person managing got nothing. Time spent managing is worth something, and time spent working clinically is also valuable. If you find yourself in a partnership where one person does most or all of the managing and the other doesn't, that's another important issue to talk about and work through to make sure that time is valued. Whether it's worth more or less than clinical work is up for debate, but there must be value assigned and it can't be taken for granted. After you've mapped out all these situations, it's also important to get aligned on your long-term vision for the future. If one person wants to keep the practice the same size and not grow, but the other wants to open up 3 more locations, that's going to be a major problem. Your partnership will likely not last. You must generally be aligned on your vision of the future. If one of the two partners envisions doing more or additional things in the future, that should be discussed. I don't think it's fair to prevent someone from doing side projects, but if those side projects mean that one person is spending way less time on the business than the other, that needs to be accounted for. I have many examples of partnerships where over time, one person dramatically decreases their energy and effort, yet still expects the same pay. Obviously, that doesn't seem right. Another major aspect to figure out before you sign up for a partnership is to make sure there is a clear delegation of responsibilities and duties. Both partners cannot be in charge of the same thing, and they also cannot have input on everything. That's a recipe for disaster. Each partner needs their own area of responsibility, and the other needs to trust and support that partner along the way. Identify where each of your strengths lie and make sure everyone is working in their strongest area. If there are weaknesses, you might need to hire other people to fill that void. Another important aspect that I have found to keep partnerships alive is meeting together frequently. There are 2 types of interactions that are important. You need to meet to discuss and work on the business, of course, and you also need to meet with you individually or even with your families in a more relaxed recreational setting. You need to grow your relationship so that you see each other as humans, people with families who have their own problems and are just trying to do their best. You need to humanize your partner in a way that allows you to assume the best and overlook the little things. If you can understand and realize that your partner has no intention to harm you or take advantage of you, but is merely doing the best they can with the tools they have, then you have a good chance of success in your partnership. Dental partnerships do add a lot of complexity to owning a business. However, for many, they can be a great opportunity to grow and do something you would never do on your own. I would probably say that if you can do it on your own, you probably should. But the reality is that partnerships help dentists gain confidence and do things they likely wouldn't do otherwise. I've had fantastic partnerships and also partnerships that have caused me tremendous amounts of stress and difficulties. I'm hopeful that some of the things I've talked about today can help you make the right decision about whether a partnership is right for you or not. And if it is right for you, I hope that by going in with the right mindset and looking at all these red flags, you can prevent major problems, stress, and difficulties in your future. If you have any issues related to your partnership or questions that I can help with, feel free to message me, and I'm happy to help if I can. Thanks again for listening, and let's keep working together to make dentistry more fun, fulfilling, and rewarding. Stay tuned for more.